Welcome to the podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Clem, and this is Turns Out We're Gay.
So fucking weird. I'm so awkward for the first 5 minutes of every episode.
Well, I think it takes a minute to just get back into the comfort of it.
I was actually thinking we need to start looking up some podcast exercises to start with.
I actually take it back, and I think it took you about 10 seconds because I think as soon as I started talking, you were like, and I'm back.
That's actually bullshit.
Well, I think it's actually true.
I actually think it's bullshit.
Season 2, we're back, and we've been on a break. Where have we been, Sarah? Tell everyone.
We have been in Bali having the best time, just honestly doing nothing. We've literally been doing nothing. I think if people knew how we spent the last month and a half, they'd be mortified.
I think we had a lot of big plans, but I also think we had done a lot. And we, made the decision to pack up our lives, and I sold my caravan that I redid and things like that. And it was a big couple of months, and I think we both really needed to sit back, relax and switch off for a second.
We were tired. And I think it's been good for us, honestly, to just chill out and do nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, we planned the whole of season 2 in a pool.
Yeah.
And any serious conversation we have from now on will be done in a pool.
Yeah. Actually, season 2 and season 3, to be honest. They really just pre-planned everything.
It's either a pool or a bed.
Yeah. That sounds worse.
Take it as you want.
Take it as you want. Think what you want to think, but whatever. Anyway, so excited. Let's talk about wrapping up season 1 and how the last couple of weeks have been. I have to say the feedback has been unexpected.
Yeah, I think we both went into season 1. We made a funny joke in the first episode saying it's probably just going to be our mums. And I think we genuinely had part of ourselves believing that it was just going to be family and friends that sort of supported us and listened. And the fact that we have so many people from all around Australia and worldwide, to be frank, commenting and sending messages in, and people saying that it's completely helped them change their lives or come out or come to terms with what their gender is or who their identity is, like that for me is worth every single second we've put into this.
Yeah. I remember the day before we released and we were sitting on the bed after Mardi Gras. We'd had one too many the night before. We had this never released podcast ready to go. We hadn't shown a single soul, and we showed our friends. And they all were like, you've got something. And we were just like, no, like, surely this is nothing that deep. And they were like, no, you've got something. And then just to go from that moment to end of season 1 and like you said, all the messages that we've had has been amazing. And I think what's also been really interesting is the statistics behind our podcast since we've had our break. In my mind, I thought we're not putting out content for the next 3 weeks, so no one's going to listen. But we've actually had so much growth in the time that we've been off, and I think that's been really cool just to see people referring it and sharing it. And it's like people are listening to our episodes for the first time, and it's just, really cool.
Yeah, that, or they're happy to have a break from us. And we're getting more fans because we're not talking.
They're like, thank God they've shut up for another
Literally.
week. But the growth has been amazing, and just seeing it like grow on its own without us really pushing it. And I think the whole point of our podcast wasn't to push it in people's face, but to see it just grow naturally and for people to resonate with it is something I never thought would ever happen. And it's just 2 people having a chat.
Yeah, I think that's 100% the truth. Like, we didn't come into this thinking this is going to be, the next big thing and everyone's going to listen and this and that. We literally thought, let's put content out that we would have found useful when we were in that position of struggle. Yeah. And it seems to be that there's way more people than we realise or that anyone realises that go through these struggles and go through other struggles that can relate to it in such a similar way. So for us, it's just incredible that it's hit the right people at the right times in their lives, and it's helping people. Like, it's literally helping people, and that's crazy to me.
Which I think sets the tone for season 2 and season 3. We have thought every single episode out and where it sits and what guests we've got coming on and what do they bring to the table and how does that help our listeners. And I think coming into season 2, we are even more focused on what that looks like and the content that we're putting out. So, Just super exciting.
We really want to be focusing on quality of content. So that means that any guests or topic we talk about, we want it to have a reason and have a purpose, and we want it to have passion behind it. So we've actually had people reaching out saying, oh, chuck me on an episode, like having a laugh or whatnot. But we've made sure that we put a question back to them and we say, okay, well, what do you want to talk about? What's the topic that you're passionate about? And 9 times out of 10, it'll be radio silence.
And that's something that we look at when we're talking to guests, you know, how can they bring something to the table, not just in a general conversation, but actually behind lights and cameras and microphone and get that message across to our listeners. So if you do reach out to us wanting to come on our podcast, tell us, what are you passionate about? We will 100% listen to it. We want to know, you know, what can you bring to the table that you think people should hear? It doesn't matter whether you've got 1 follower or 1 million followers. If you've got something that you're passionate about and you want to bring to the table, message us, but make sure you've got something to talk about. Otherwise, we'll just be sitting here having a good old chat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing is like, I don't think people realise how much work we put into this. I think people think you buy a mic, you plug it in and that's it. And I don't think they realise the hours of time we put into not only planning the sessions, talking about every episode, talking about every single guest and what they're going to bring to it and if it's worth it. And then not only that, the hours that go behind the scheduling, the posting, me editing. You have to listen to a lot of complaining when I'm doing that sometimes. But there's hours, like I take this very seriously. This is something that's a skill of mine that I've done as a career and things like that. So it's not just something we've done half-heartedly. We put a lot of love into this and we want to make sure that anyone we bring on board this journey is on that same level of wanting to create that kind of content for the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, what to look forward to are those types of guests. And I'm so excited for who we have coming on. I think we have quite the range of different people, topics, specialties, and I'm so excited to be interviewing these people. We're going to be jam-packed with interviewing. I think we're not going to even have time to breathe over the next 6 weeks, but I'm so excited for who we have coming on, and every single person has been thought out. And I'm so excited for the quality that's going to be coming out to everyone.
I'm really excited. And we also have some really special guests coming on at some point, whether it be this season or a following season. People that have been close to us and been along our journey and that our podcast has really connected with them. I'm really excited to bring those people on as well and sort of show full circle of how us just having this chat and bringing this content has really changed people's lives.
Yeah. So that's enough about season 1, season 2, and the many more seasons to come. Obviously, you can tell from our voices we're so excited, and we hope that you continue to follow us in our journey, continue to message us. I think we read every single message at the moment, and
Absolutely.
we're just loving it. So, yeah, thank you to everyone that's listening, and let's jump into what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so this was a topic that a lot of people messaged in saying, I think this is a topic worth covering. I think it's a phrase that's used a lot and it's something that people throw around at people and can be taken multiple different ways. So we're going to break down love bombing and we're going to start that off because neither one of us have looked up the technical term and what the actual definition of it is. Yeah. So based off society and things like that, we have come up with a description in our head. I don't think mine's right, but we thought it would be fun to not look it up, and it's killed us both because we both can be competitive and we want to be right and things like that, and we haven't looked it up. We're going to just genuinely go, this is what I think it is based off what I've heard and what I've learned and who said it and whatnot. And then we're going to look up the definition and break it down. Yeah. And then after that, we're just going to sort of go through our experiences with the word and what kind of weight it's carried in our journeys and then some advice.
Yeah. Okay, so the definition of love bombing in our own voices. Do you want to go first?
I think I'll go first because I think mine will be short and sweet and I think it'll be wrong.
Oh, no. Well, actually, there is no wrong answer on this because you brought up something important I think not just the term love bombing, but a lot of terms these days are picked up and they're spread wide without any like formal definition behind it. And I'm glad that we're going to talk about our experiences because you've said to me before that someone's called you a love bomber. So I'm keen to talk about that. I'm really keen to see what it actually is and what people think it is and break it down. So let's go. What is your definition of love bombing?
For me, love bombing is when the emotion isn't genuine. So, okay, the way I see it is love bombing is when you don't actually love someone. You're putting out the energy of loving someone without actually loving them to get to a reward or to get them invested in you. And then once you get to that point, you pull away. That's how I've understood it.
That's interesting.
For me, and this is my understanding of it, is I don't believe you can love someone if you're going to love bomb them, in my sense of the matter. So that's my take on it. It might not make sense to anyone else, but
that is not what I expected from you, actually.
What did you expect?
I don't know. I've never thought of it that way, actually. That's really interesting. So what you're saying is you fancy someone, but you don't love them, but you would like to, are you saying you would like to have sex with them? Are you saying like you would just want their comfort, but you don't like overly love them, but you just want their comfort and attention? Is that what you mean?
I believe that it's not actual love, but you give the impression of love to get something in return, whether it be sex or whether it be a date or whether it just be, acknowledgement of your presence or, them turning down other people and committing to just you. Like, I don't think that there's one set answer or set end point, but I think the way I've always thought about it is you don't actually love them. You're pretending or you're implying that you love them with your actions and your words to receive something. Once you get that, you then pull back and disappear.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So my definition, I've got a few thoughts on love bombing. I think love bombing, like you said, there's no one set way of doing it. I think people who love bomb can do it in different ways. It could be emotional, it could be objective, it could be a number of different ways of going about it, but the end goal is to, I guess, catch someone. It's like going fishing. So someone who is either vulnerable or is showing a small amount of attention, that person will love bomb them in terms of like buying them gifts or showering them with the I love yous in the first week, or, even things like, and this is something that I experienced particularly in men, and it could also be with women or non-binary or whoever, but in my experience, it's been with men in the first week. It's this whole like, I'll protect you thing, like this big way to make you feel safe, to catch you. And then once you're caught, it just flips on its head. The gifts go away, the protection goes away, the love goes away. The difference, I think, between what I think and what you think is I actually do think that person has the feeling of love, but I actually think they don't love that person, because if you loved that person, you wouldn't hurt them like that. But they're so engulfed in emotion of wanting to get that person that they'll keep that person. If that person was to then leave or whatever, it becomes, a fight. But I think that love bombing end goal is to catch that person, to stay with them, but you'll flip things on your head. I also think love bombing can be shown, like I said, it could be shown in gift giving. It could be like someone in the first week has gone out and bought you, I don't know, what's a significant gift?
Jewelry or something.
Yeah, like a gold bracelet in the first week, or it could be a month in and they've bought you a brand new car.
That was my car.
It could even just be finding out your insecurities and then just going one step above that to make you feel like, wow, that's amazing. Like I feel really special. And love bombing can also be very psychological. It could be no gifts, and it could be completely emotionally giving, to the point where that person will then, when things go bad, the person that's been love bombed will go, oh, but it felt amazing at the start, and oh, but he or she or they did that at the start or whatever, and so maybe I'll forgive them for now because they used to be like that, and that's ultimately the end goal, is to keep that person around. I also think
You have a lot of thoughts on
I
this
have a lot
topic.
of thoughts. I also think people that love bomb, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they have severe insecurities. The people that are love bombing, they either have a physical insecurity, mental, financial, physical, whatever. I think they're so deeply insecure that they feel like they have to love bomb to get someone interested. So that's my definitions of love bombing. I think, like I said, the difference is that I think they might still have feelings of love, but not in the best way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, I think we do have a very similar connection in the sense that it's to get to a point, whether
Yeah.
it be to catch them or
Yeah.
whatever. I think it has a purpose like that, and then it can flip very suddenly after. I think that's the commonality in both of our sort of self-descriptions.
Yeah.
So I'm just typing it in now and we're going to get the literal definition. Love bombing involves continuously bombing a relational partner with flattery, compliments, affection. This attention can come in various forms: gifts, long-winded messages, social media interactions, passionate declarations of love. However, love bombing isn't purely altruistic. People use love bombing because they also want to feel praised, adored. Therefore, they will lavish their partners, hoping that their partners will return the favour.
Yeah.
So I think we were both on the right track.
Yeah. I think that last part, for me anyway, in my experiences, I've experienced love bombing from someone who has a mental illness. And I don't want to, put that out there and say that only people that have a mental illness can love bomb. It can absolutely be anyone. But those long messages and things like that definitely have come from someone who struggles with abandonment and things like that. And then on the flip side, experience love bombing from someone who I would say is more narcissistic and has an end goal of manipulation and emotional abuse. So I think love bombing can come from multiple spectrums. But I guess based on what you've just read, what do you feel is the difference between romance and being romantic and love bombing someone? And let's think about it in the first month of dating someone.
This is something that I really struggle with. And people might listen to this and think, Clem's a narcissist, Clem is a love bomb and whatnot, and so be it, I don't really care. I am a hopeless romantic. I always will be, I always have been, I've always been into writing letters and buying flowers. And when I found myself and my identity and being more of a STEM sort of person, I love the idea of getting someone flowers and seeing their face light up. I love the idea of sending them a good morning message or whatnot. So a lot of the time when I'm reading those definitions, I'm thinking I do a lot of this behaviour. But the way that I see love bombing in my eyes is that someone that doesn't necessarily mean those things or feel those things genuinely, or it's just to get to a certain point then they pull away. What I struggle with is I love to be romantic. I love to sweep women off their feet. When I'm genuinely interested in them, I will only ever be talking to that person if I get to a point of, pursuing them and showing them that love and affection. But I struggle because I feel like it's so easy to then throw off someone's efforts and chivalrous ways as love bombing these days. Particularly if you're in a situation, I've been told multiple times that I'm a love bomber. And it's been in situations where I have grown to get to know someone. I'll treat them well because I'm genuinely interested in them. I feel strongly about them and I want them to feel special. Over time, I get to know them and their personality, and I learned that their personality is not what I thought it was, and it's not compatible with mine. So it gets to a point where I will then make the decision to walk away.
So I have some questions that might help us decide whether you were love bombing or whether you were being romantic and that person maybe was hurt when you left. Pick a person that's told you that. How long were you dating this person or talking to them?
A month.
Okay. And in the first week, what is something that you did that you thought would make them feel special?
It was their birthday. No, that wasn't the first week. I don't know if I did anything out of the ordinary. I think we just had a couple of dates on the first week.
And when you went out on dates, did you pay for dinner? Did you buy them flowers?
No, not for the first few dates.
And it was dates like face to face? Yeah. What was the first big thing that you did for them, and how long was it into the dating cycle?
Okay, so their love language was receiving gifts. That was one of their big love languages that they receive themselves. They had expressed to me that no one ever made a fuss of them on their birthday. They never felt special on their birthday, and they told me multiple times that they love to be made a fuss of. They like things like the restaurant singing happy birthday to them, etc., etc. My worst nightmare personally, but it's not about me at this point. And they liked big romantic gestures. They told me all of this flat out. So I think it was about 3 weeks in. As I said, I was only with them for about a month, maybe 2 months all up.
And so within that 3 weeks, did you tell this person that you loved them?
Yes,
And how long was it that into the relationship?
probably about 3 weeks.
Did you love them?
Yeah.
Did you love them enough to say I love you, or were you saying, did they say I love you first?
Yeah, they said it first.
I'm just knowing you a little bit. Did you feel pressured, or did you
Yeah, I definitely felt pressured, but I did feel it.
You did feel love for them.
Absolutely. Would I have said it first at that point? Probably not. Probably more of a protection of myself thing. I wasn't ready to, I guess, say it, but I did feel it.
Okay. And within the 3 weeks before you said I love you, you just went out on dates. Did you send them like long messages? Did you send lots of like passionate?
I feel like most lesbians would send lots of messages. We're all about communication.
Not lots of messages, like long, passionate
No,
messages.
but I feel like a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty normal with the
I know,
lesbian
I'm just trying to
dating world.
I'm trying to navigate it. Okay. So the first big thing was when?
Their birthday, which I would say was about 3 weeks in.
Okay, and what did you do?
I bought them a cake and I blew up a lot of balloons in their room.
Oh, that's cute.
And like got them their favourite lollies and things like that. So I would have spent about $50 all up.
Okay.
But they were very thought out and it was a big gesture by the appearance of it.
Okay. And so moving on from the birthday, you started to, because you were together for only a month, so you started to experience things that had made you feel like it wasn't going to work out. Did you do anything else in the time, like between their birthday and when you decided to call it off?
I think I probably got them flowers once.
Okay. And why did you break up?
I don't know how to word this.
I have another question because I think I know who this is. Does this person suffer from a known mental illness?
This person suffers from a mental illness that I still to this day don't have enough knowledge about.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And it can change their personality quite drastically at times.
Yeah.
I experienced that a fair bit within the last couple of weeks and it was quite confronting. And I think without the knowledge behind it, I didn't understand it. And for me, it changed the compatibility.
Okay.
Because where I was at mentally in my headspace, I couldn't handle the flipping of emotions and things like that.
Okay, so last question for you, based on everything that you've just said. Use this example with someone else that you've dated.
Yep.
Would you say it's been the same level of like giving? Would you say that anyone else you've dated, you've given more than what you gave this person that called you a love bomber?
I would say it's the same level of giving. When I'm into someone and when I am actively pursuing someone, I would say that it's the same level of giving. And that probably sounds bad, that it's not different for different people or whatnot. But at the end of the day, if I'm interested, I'm going to pursue you and I'm going to pursue you with the way that you receive love. So that might be long messages for one person. That might be gift giving for one person. That might be time and energy and things like that for different people. But I will give someone my all if I genuinely want to be with someone.
Yeah.
I've given the same level. It might not be the same things, but I've given the same level to women who I've ended up dating for 7 months, a year. And then there's been some that I've only dated for a month. The same level of giving.
Yeah.
But it's just how I learn our compatibility over that time. And I learned that I don't want to be with that person.
Yeah.
Which was what changes the length of time. And I
Yeah.
think that it's hard for people to turn around and say, you love bomb me, this and this and this. And how do you turn around to someone and say, I didn't love bomb you. I just learnt that I don't want to be with you because I don't like you as a person.
You could just say that. But
does anyone honestly want to sit there and say that they would happily receive that information? Someone sitting there saying, I just don't like you as a person.
So how does it feel to be called a love bomber? How did it feel?
Shitty. It felt really shitty because I felt like I put my all into this relationship and this situationship or whatever. I felt like I really put energy into this person and I got to know them and I was there for them at times and whatnot. And I'm not talking about just that one person. I'm talking about all these other people. There's probably 2 or 3 girls maybe that have said it. and I put in a lot of time and energy into those people. I gave them a lot of love, and I had a lot of patience with these people, and they helped me dramatically as well, and I wouldn't take anything away from the fact that they were part of my journey, and I have a lot of love for these people still to this day. But at the end of the day, if all of these people displayed pretty poor behaviour towards me, whether it be insecurities or jealousy or control or, you know, certain change of...
Their personality changed.
Yeah, personality completely flipped.
Yeah.
And it put me in a very bad position.
Yeah.
Not only that, but there's plenty of other things in these situations. But every single one of these that ended up calling me a love bomber behaved in a very poor manner. At the end of the day, that's what made me realise this is not my person.
Yeah.
Because the person for me would not behave that way, would not treat people like that, whether it be me or other people.
Yeah.
Some people treated other people a certain way, and I saw it and thought that's not the person I want to be with. But they flipped it on me and said, you're a love bomber and this is your fault.
And I think in my experience with you is that I have not once thought you're love bombing me at all. I think what we have done at every step is connect, communicate, set boundaries, but continued to move to the next level, and that's included whatever it's included romantically. I did meet you after you had your heart broken, so potentially things were different than before then, and maybe we'll touch on that in a sec. But in my experience, I think you are just you're a hopeless romantic, and that's not these days. It's not as common as it was years ago.
I honestly think that it's just rare that that's a genuine thing. I think a lot of people these days have ulterior motives behind these gestures. And I think people struggle to believe that I have genuine motives behind these actions. I just simply am not into them after they behave or treat me a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's where it frustrates me, because I get put in a category because of other people's actions, or when at the end of the day, I wanted to give them love.
Yeah.
And I showed it the way they received it. And they fell for me. And I'm sorry that they did. But at the end of the day, I was falling for them at that time as well.
Yeah. And it just didn't
It just
work
went
out.
different ways at the end.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, right? Like we've talked about love bombing and other terms being used as a bit of a social pop thing where someone gets hurt and they'll say, that person love bombed me. And I don't want to take away from love bombing experiences, because love bombing can be incredibly damaging. But from what I'm hearing is that you were in a situation, you wanted to get to know this person, you treated them as being Clem, the thoughtful person that you are. You put a lot of thought and focus into the things that you do to show somebody that you care. And I think you do that even after things haven't worked out. If you've continued on with a friendship, I've seen that recently with you, with an ex of yours, where you've genuinely cared, even though it hasn't worked out. And I think that's just the person that you are. And, you know, you mentioned around like you being put into this category because of other people's behaviour. And I think some people have just genuinely been so hurt and they lack a lot of trust. And that's where this word can sometimes be thrown around, I think, because we hear it. Every other video on TikTok at the moment is I've been love bombed or this and that. But maybe, I don't know how to say this without it sounding like maybe you're not being loved bombed. Maybe it's just not worked out, but that person was being romantic during that time and then it's not worked out and that's just been really painful. Or maybe, you know, I think you've learnt some lessons after that as well.
Absolutely. And I was that person that I got heartbroken and there was definitely a point in time where I turned around and I said, that was love bombing. Yeah, they love bombed me.
Let's talk about how you got hurt. Let's chat a little bit around that, whoever that may be. But you mentioned, I think in last season, that you had a bit of a shift, that you didn't realise you hurt people until you got hurt. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say almost the exact same thing happened to me in reverse. I connected with someone and we connected very strongly, and I receive love in multiple ways, but my love languages, I don't know. I love long messages. I love letters and gestures like that. I love words. And so had connected with this person. We grew a very strong relationship very quickly. And the messages were so in-depth and so loving and complimentary of me and things like that. And everything was going amazingly, whatnot. And then it started to sort of, problems arose. And then very quickly and very suddenly, they just called it off. And it was almost like everything flipped on its head. And I sat there going, well, this is love bombing then. This is exactly what they're talking about. I was in love and this person was in love with me, and suddenly now they're not. When I sort of sit there and break it down and analyse it, there was multiple things that came into play, different things, distance, whatever, and stuff like that, that became hurdles and built up this thing. But I think I was blinded by how much I loved them, that I didn't acknowledge the hurdles in our path, or the fact that at the end of the day, I think they learnt who I was and it wasn't who they wanted to be with. And they're absolutely entitled to that. Everyone is. If you learn about someone and you grow to figure out that person's personality and it's not what you had thought it was, whether it be like a super negative thing or just the fact that it just isn't what you pictured. I think they thought I was much more confident and I didn't have insecurities, and I was, 24/7 the larrikin and things like that. And I'm not. I'm a big teddy bear, and anyone that knows me and loves me knows that. And some people just like that outer shell. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it was. They liked the outer shell and they weren't ready for the soft teddy bear inside. And I don't think it was love bombing. I think it was just that they realised they didn't want to be with the real Clem. It's a hard pill to swallow. But I was that person that sat there saying, this is love bombing. How could they do that? This is love bombing, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I've been in that situation. You're really into someone and then things start to arise and you think, this is my person.
I don't think you've ever said that out loud, what you just said. From meeting you to now and you processing this relationship, I don't think you've ever fully said that it's not love bombing and that it's maybe you weren't what they wanted. Bit of a breakthrough, babe.
It's hard. It's not easy to sit there and say, I wasn't enough for that person. It doesn't mean I'm not enough for the right person. It doesn't mean I'm not enough for myself. But I wasn't enough for that person, or I wasn't the right thing for that person. And that's heartbreaking when you're in love with that person, and it's heartbreaking in the moment. And I was in that position of pain that threw that label on it. And when you sit back and reflect, it wasn't that. They gave me the love that they felt at the time. And when they realised it wasn't right, things fell apart. Shit happens. That's life, unfortunately. I think there genuinely is love bombers out there that have malicious intent or have a manipulative background and they want things out of it and whatnot. But I think at the end of the day, sometimes it is what it is.
Yeah.
You're just not right for them.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
But you're right. And I think this is what I'm trying to say with before about love bombing being thrown as a label when you're hurt. Is it love bombing or did it just not work out? Because being the receiver of being told that you're love bombing when you really genuinely cared, I think that that really does something to a person. Not taking away from the real love bombers out there, because there definitely are. And I think we're seeing it a lot in the queer community. I don't know why, but it seems to be, like I said, every other video of a lesbian or someone saying they're being love bombed. But it is a serious thing that's going on at the moment, is love bombing. And we're going to talk a little bit about ghosting and things that are happening in not just the queer community, but dating community. But, before you label someone a love bomber, maybe just take a reflection on that.
Yeah.
And really think about it and, just kind of stomach the relationship.
People say when someone's hurt and they close their walls down and stuff, it makes it really hard for the next person to open those walls and things like that, or for them to love again the same and whatnot. I think if you falsely throw that label on someone, it can have the same effect. Even if they're walking away as the person that made the decision or whatnot, it doesn't mean that it didn't hurt them. But also if they've put their heart and soul into someone and it hasn't worked out, and then you go and throw that sort of label on them, it can diminish the fact that someone that, like me, who's genuinely just a romantic person and wants to sweep someone off their feet, it makes me hesitate and question whether or not I want to actually do those things, because people are just putting me in a category now when I genuinely just want to be romantic. But that said, like you said, it doesn't take away from the fact that I think it is increasingly growing, the reality of it and how people are doing it, and it's a horrible thing for someone to put someone through. Yeah. And I think that it brings us to the fact that I had my certain experiences, but you've gone through quite literal love bombing.
We will be covering topics such as domestic violence, PTSD, and a few other topics with regards to mental health. It may be triggering to some of our listeners. If any of this does trigger you, maybe listen to the next episode. Otherwise, we hope you enjoy. We were talking about this before we started this episode. You don't know this story.
I don't.
And there's only a small group of people that know this story because for a while there, I was really scared for my safety. So there's probably one person that will listen to this that I hope is proud of me for sharing this story. But I experienced love bombing that then turned into an incredibly dangerous situation. And I think this is a good example of how love bombing can be so serious. And if you're doing it to someone, you should stop firstly, but you should seek help, because I really do believe that love bombing comes down to serious mental health issues, but also it's to gain something. You're trying to gain something. So to set the scene, and we're going to talk about this in another episode, I have not openly talked about this on here or in life, except to close people, but I also haven't openly disclosed that I was clinically diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and that comes off the back of a few different situations, and we'll go into this in another episode because I think I'm ready to talk about it. But this particular situation definitely groups into the reason why I was clinically diagnosed. But I'm going to focus on the love bombing part because it's a very long story. So I'll try and summarize it. But the love bombing part of it, because it could help someone look for these signs. But as you know, I was married to somebody.
Yes. I will just add in there that I am aware of your diagnosis.
Yes.
The way you worded it made
Sorry.
it seem like you were now telling me this on this table with cameras and lights.
No.
I'm very well aware of that, and a lot of things have contributed. It's this particular person and story that I'm not aware of.
Yes.
Okay.
That's something to talk about, actually. I actually disclosed to you my diagnosis extremely early. I think it was like before we even really started talking.
Yeah.
Because, PTSD is probably another pop word at the moment being thrown around, and, I've got PTSD from this and that. But, being diagnosed with it is a whole other thing. And so I'm keen to talk about it because I think I have a good voice to talk about it. But I told you early on, and you know a lot of things, but this is one story you don't know about. So I was in a marriage with a man, and what people don't know is we actually separated for 3 years in between. We were married, we got a divorce, and then we rekindled after this situation. And the marriage, I would say, I'm sure he's probably going to listen to this, but I'm sure he will understand. My ex-husband was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and he was undiagnosed for the first 3 years. And that was an incredibly challenging 3 years for both of us. And it weighed a massive toll on me, huge toll. I loved him so much during that time, but I was so defeated, and a lot of things had happened. And so when we had separated, I really was just looking for anyone that would give me even 5% more of what I experienced. So I got on a dating app straight away, which was really stupid considering what I had just gone through. I met this person and we went out on a date, and the date was very normal, but this person had disclosed to me that they had been a veteran, we'll say, a veteran. And so they had been to war and those types of things, and I found that really fascinating. But straight away, looking back on it, there were a lot of things that happened in that first date, inclusive of like big extravagant gifts, expensive dinners. We went to like gold class cinemas. He took me to a lot of expensive places in his expensive car. And within the first 2 weeks of meeting this person, he had found out about what I had just gone through and had taken those things and used them. So things like my phone, I had to get rid of my phone, and he bought me a new phone. He bought me a new TV because my ex-husband had bought me that TV. He basically had replaced everything in my life. I don't know if I can talk about this. Hang on.
I'm really proud of you. And even if you decide to now not talk about this, that's totally fine. And it's huge that you've even gotten to this point.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Baby, don't be sorry.
I want to talk about it. I just need a second.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
the film's going to look ridiculous, but I'm going to try and get through this. I think I'm just going to have to summarize it because I can't get into detail. But this person had taken everything away from me.
This person being the new partner?
The new partner.
Yeah.
It was over the course of 3 years. Mm-hmm. But I would say in the first month, he had taken everything, including friends.
Yeah.
Had completely isolated me to a room in his house. And one of my best friends, who's the person that I think will be really proud of me for talking about this, he took her away from me. I didn't see it. At the time, I saw it as love. I saw it as someone who wanted to take care of me and protect me. But it wasn't. And I think the signs that if you were in this situation is if somebody is trying to replace things in your life, you know, buy you those big gifts, spend lots of money. There's no need for all of that to prove that you want to be with someone. And that's what I went through. And I went through that, like I said, for the first few months. It got to the point where, you know, when the gears have shifted, those things were then used as control. Things like you can't use your phone because I bought it for you. You can't use the TV because I bought it for you. You can't use the fridge, the washing machine.
It became a power thing.
It became a power thing to the point where I couldn't even sleep in my own bed. That went on for 3 years and I stopped talking to my family. I stopped talking to my friends. I pretty much had to run away from this situation. And it was serious. It was really serious. And it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever been through. But it started out with love bombing. That's how it started, because he had picked up in the first date that I had just gone through a separation. My husband at the time was really challenging to deal with. You know, I was vulnerable. I had also not been diagnosed with PTSD, but you know the story of what happened not 2 years before that, where I had a stalker situation. And that's a whole other episode. But so I was mentally not in any place to be dating anyone. But him being who he is picked up on all of that and took advantage of a very vulnerable person at the time. That experience, unfortunately, led me to go back to my husband because anything was better than what I had just been through. That sounds really horrible for my ex-husband because at the time, you know, we had a great relationship when we got back together, but it was that bad that I felt like if that's what I'm going to experience away from him, then I should just be with him. And obviously growing and getting older, I've realized now that that was a big mistake. But this person was also somebody that I had disclosed in the first week that I thought I was queer and I wanted to date women. You know, that is just an example of something that was withheld from me for 3 years. It was the most horrible thing to happen to a person and experience. And like I said, it started out with love bombing.
Yeah.
That's how serious it can get. And I think when I think about what I went through and when I think about what you went through, although I don't want to take away people's experiences, but I think love bombing is, for me, to get to the point of manipulating someone to get what you want out of them.
Yeah.
It's to manipulate them to emotionally keep them in your life. And that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
It's to keep someone at your beck and call for whatever you need. It can be, love bombing doesn't just happen at the start. It can happen in the middle and it can happen at the end.
Yeah.
It can happen all the way through. It can happen when you can be love bombed and then you can be thrown to the ground and then you can be love bombed again. It's used as a manipulation tactic. And so when you tell me your story, I don't see that as love bombing. I see that as you just being, like you said, a hopeless romantic. But someone else may have experienced love bombing before that and, you know, resonates the two together.
Yeah.
And so I can see why someone would see it that way. I don't agree. I think that you were just being romantic. But I've also experienced probably one of the deepest levels of love bombing, and it's horrible. That's probably as much as I can get into about that story without completely wiping this episode out, because I will just be crying the whole time. But I'm still affected by it.
Absolutely. I think I've heard bits and pieces of this sort of story, and I'm so proud of you, because we did this to help people and to talk about things that are tough. And of course our focus is queer and queer struggles and whatnot, but in life there's plenty more struggles than just that. And I'm sure this is going to help people, and it's going to help people be aware of things and warning signs. And it was extremely hard for you, and as you know, I'm so proud of you. And
Thanks.
you are such a strong human. And I was saying this on Fortnite the other night with our friends. You make me believe in myself more than I've ever done in the past. And the way you light up a room, and, you know, your giggle is infectious and things like that. It breaks my heart that anyone could treat you any less than the little passenger princess you are. I'm extremely proud of you, because I could see how hard that was for you. And I know that it's really the tip of the iceberg of things you've been through. And I'm so sorry that you've been through all those things. And I'm just going to continue to try and nurture you and love you and give you all of the love that you deserved and you missed out on all of those years.
I love you.
I love you.
I hope that all made sense. I don't even know.
Well, I think one thing I will say is, if you wanted to just quickly give a couple of pieces of advice of warning signs to look out for when it comes to that extreme level.
Yeah.
And like you said, this is how bad it can get. So they're things to look out for if you're in that dating world.
A first date, I think, being wined and dined, perfectly fine. But
I mean, I bought you Pizza Hut.
you
That's pretty
did.
special.
I fell asleep on the couch. It was perfect. Being wined and dined, I think that's pretty normal. But I think if somebody is asking you questions about your life and then following up with things. So the key things to take away from my experience was I talked about the challenges that I had with my husband. This person went and tried to fix those challenges, whether that be my TV, which my TV was perfectly fine, but to replace that. So any element of control, where you are your own person, you can have your own life. If somebody that you have just started dating starts to want to have either control or wants to replace things in your life or wants to take you away, that could be even time. It could be things like, oh, but I really want to see you, but you've said no.
Yeah.
I'm not free tonight. Yeah, but I really want to. I've had a really bad day. And they're not taking no for an answer. Or, you know, they're starting to say things like, did your friend really like you? Or I think in my case, he was saying really awful things about my family and my friends, and I believed him at the time. And this was probably 3 weeks in. Getting to know someone, you've got to ask personal details. But if someone's really trying to get to the bottom of, I think on my first date with this person, he asked if I rent or if I own a home, you know, and wanted to know the intricate ins and outs of these little things. If someone is really trying to delve deep into your life and then you're noticing them trying to do things towards those bits of information that you've given them, just really think about what's the motive behind that, because that's where that control can come in, and they can then go, yeah, but I helped you fix that, or yeah, but I gave you this to help with that situation. Lying. I mean, this person lied about his name, he lied about his car, he lied about his house, he wasn't even who he said he was. So do your fact checking and really find out who you're dating. I think that's when you've really got to take a step back and go, this person's not complimenting my life. They're trying to take my life away from me. And I'm a big believer. And after this experience, I started to have the motto of, you're not 50%. You're both 100%. You both have your own life, and you come together and you complement each other's life. If you're not doing that, if someone's coming into your life and they're not complimenting you, then there's something going on. And of course, there's challenges in relationships later. You know, it's never going to be 100% on both sides. But I do think that in early days, in the first 12 months, it can't be to the point where it's leaning heavily on one side or the other. And so just really look out for those signs.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And my only piece of advice would be before you start calling someone a certain label, sort of break down the situation. And as I said, I did it myself. I threw the label out and quickly analysed and realised it was wrong and took it back. Just realise that sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes someone isn't love bombing you. You're just not right for them.
Yeah.
But it is a serious thing and we need to take it seriously, as your experience has shown us. And I think it's a really important topic. I'm really glad that we had this conversation and in the way that we did, and we covered both sort of sides of it. I think it's a big topic and there's a lot of things to unpack with it. And I think lots of people have their stories. That's one thing I think I'd love our listeners to send in any sort of stories they have in relation to this. It's something that you can learn from everyone's experience, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also no experience is worse or less. Everybody hurts differently. Don't compare experiences and say, well, I know mine wasn't as bad as yours. If it hurt you, then it hurt you. And you can talk about it. Yeah, this is a big topic, like you said. I would love to delve into this with a professional and really talk about the whys behind someone's motives and why they love bomb. I'm really interested in the reasons why people do things. I'm keen to delve into this more in another episode, but I'm really glad we covered it.
This season's going to be a lot about balance, and we want to be able to cover things with humour and banter like we always do, and we'll always find a way to throw in a sneaky comment here or there, but we also want to cover some pretty serious topics. And like you say, get some people that specialise in those topics and have personal experience and things like that to bring to the table. So it is a bit of a heavy one, I guess, by the end of this episode, it became a pretty heavy episode to start on. But I think it's an important topic, and I think it's something to be aware of when you're going into that dating world, because it is definitely very common and it's a word thrown around left, right and centre.
And my last piece of advice before we wrap this episode up is focus on yourself first before you go out dating, because you might not realize you're love bombing, but you're love bombing from a place of insecurity. So you don't need to get yourself right 100%, but get yourself right, get your life in order, figure out what motivates you, figure out what brings you joy. And then when you go out dating, you're going out with a whole life still there, whether that works out or not. And I think love bombing at times can come from someone who doesn't have their life sorted out and they're grasping at straws to keep someone around because they're unhappy in their own lives. If you think that you're that person that's love bombing, or if you think you're very vulnerable to being love bombed, focus on yourself before you start dating. Just really get yourself in order and be happy, at least happier in your life, so that you can walk away from someone if you think they are love bombing you, and you can, potentially stop doing love bombing behaviors.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's, I think, a wrap on the first episode, a big one. But we're back, bitches.
Yeah, we're back. We are back.
We're really excited for this season. I think it means so much when people share this podcast and our sort of content, because we would love to just reach more and more people that this content could help. You never know who's going through what in life, and we want to be able to be one of many resources that is available for these situations and for these struggles that people go through.
Because we've mentioned, a few things around mental illness, and, I've talked a little bit about my diagnosis of PTSD and things. We'll pop a few links in the description of where you can get resources and things that have helped us, but also, just general help as well if you're struggling with this. And I might even look at trying to find, I know there's a few specialties around like love bombing and manipulation and people that can help you figure that out. We'll pop some of those links in the description as well.
Definitely. And let us know if this kind of content is something that you want to hear more of, because if you guys don't tell us that you want to hear more of this or you want to hear less of this or whatnot, you'll just keep getting content that you don't want. So you may as well speak up.
Yes. And final thing, as you said, share it, but also follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok. I love seeing like people put it up in the stories with their little like pop art
Listening.
stuff, and I love all of that. So yeah, share it around, but also follow the pages. It just helps us with getting further and farther and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, get engaged. Let us know what you want
Yes.
or what
Yeah.
you're enjoying or whatnot.
Yeah. Amazing.
All right. Well, first one of the season.
First one done. That's a wrap.
Love you.
Bye.